Megan,
What's up?
thank you for coming to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
I'm so happy you're here. You've directed with Camlock several times now
Mhm.
as a social media expert, which is something that's been asked for more and more throughout my career. The first jobs that I was doing, it was the broadcast team was just given less money and they said, "We're going to do the same thing but for social and somehow it'll be cheaper, but we want it to be kind of the same thing but vertical."
Mhm.
And I think now everyone is, in 2025 realizing that with the different platform, you need different creative, different execution, different size team, different cameras,
Mhm.
and you need someone who is familiar with all of those details.
Yeah, 100%. Remember that one Grubhub shoot we did where we actually attached an iPhone to our camera, so we got it vertical on the
Yes.
iPhone and then had it a more 16 by 9 on the nicer camera, and we A/B tested it, and the iPhone stuff did better.
Oh my gosh. Tell me about, because I've never been on the buying side or even a creative that like gets those metrics on A/B testing. How often are you doing that, and like how do you know which variables that you're going to test?
It definitely depends client to client. For the most part, a common theme I've seen is testing 2 to 4 variables within one video concept. And the variable just means that one thing is different compared to the other. So usually people will test different openers with different visuals, opening hooks, or like different ad copy in the beginning. And then if you want to push it further, you can even test different sales sequences, would be like the chunk of the main video or a chunk of the middle of the video. But yeah, going into a shoot, it is always good, I feel like, to have those options, especially if you are unsure about performance and you're like, oh, this like maybe this one concept did kind of well, like maybe you can pull elements from that and then implement it in to your next shoe, and then you get to like test it again.
Yeah, that makes
I don't know if that
sense.
makes sense, but
No, that does. Yeah, for sure. Have there been any like takeaways from A/B testing that you found to be kind of counterintuitive or something that you were a little, I guess, surprised?
surprised by it. As a creative, what you think might do the best and look the best might not necessarily perform the best. And that has been a really hard pill to swallow over the years, especially coming from a production background and then also a pretty heavy brand forward agency. I then went to like a performance agency and there just learned, like, that's where I did more A/B testing and really got into the nitty-gritty of all the data. And yeah, just you come up with these amazing ideas and you're like, this is going to do so well. I'm so excited. It's so cool. And then it just doesn't do well. And then like another video that looks like your grandma made it, like beats it, and you're just like, what the heck? So yeah, that has been the most surprising thing, but I think embracing that versus fighting that has been the best thing in my career. Because the more, in a way, it kind of opens an opportunity, which is really fun to like look at that and be like, why is this doing well? Like make up hypothesis on why that grandma looking video does well. And then you get to see, you know, the audience is skewing way older. And so it is older women that are like actually looking at that video. And then you can look at like the 3 second, right? Like what was in that hook that's resonating with them. And basically you can like nitpick all the parts of where they're watching in the video and hypothesize and then generate that into the next concept.
Yeah, I think it's pretty incredible that you can get all that data about your audience. I mean, that's like not new news. It's somewhat new news to me because I've just recently started promoting on Instagram some of my reels. And it's like, how about men 25 to 35 within 4 miles that are interested in visual effects? And I was like, yeah, that actually would be great. And
Yeah.
it's kind of wild that you can do that.
No, it is really crazy. They're definitely tracking you and yeah, they basically are onto all the things that you're doing and the algorithm knows best, sadly. But if you're on the opposite side of it, I always say I feel like a mad scientist, which is like kind of a fun a way to think about it. Because I'm always puzzle piecing things together, and I'm never just pulling a great idea out of thin air anymore. Because I mean, as a creative, that used to be like what got you going and made you excited. But now I feel like it's shifted, and I like come up with a good idea, but then I like bring in all the elements of performance that I know have done well in the past, and then make it into one super idea.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, obviously you have maybe more experience than, anyone older or younger than you because your career kind of started in this platform and that platform's just been growing for the last 10 years. How long have you been working?
Yeah, that's actually a really good call. I've never thought about it that way, but I remember in college I studied social media studies, emphasis in social media, and then a minor in TV and film. So it's funny that I ended up doing exactly that. But we were learning about social media at the most basic level. Like I remember them being like, there's a location tag. How can we use this for marketing? And it was like the biggest deal. So it's obviously evolved so much. Yeah, I think I've been doing this for about 8 or 9 years. Yeah, started in production. I knew I wanted to do something in TV and film, and did that for a while. Even worked on the show New Girl for a little bit, and I thought I was gonna be in art department, but I don't know. As you guys know, art department is obviously tough, and I just didn't feel like ready to commit to one role. Because the art department unions are interesting. You have to pick if you want to be a set designer or art director. They're like separate unions. So I was like, I just feel like I can't decide, and I don't feel drawn to one. So I'm just gonna drop it all and try something else. And I ended up moving to San Francisco and doing a agency that I was a graphic designer intern, and eventually moved up to a designer. So that's where I was actually editing and making content, which was super valuable for my career. I think if anyone wants to be in this industry, learning how to use all um, the tools that people use to edit, it was super valuable. But so I did that, and we barely looked at performance there. It was very much like what looks pretty, and like looking at pixels, like tiny, tiny pixels. Like something was off by a pixel, I would have to like redo it, which was also really good for my brain in the future. But it's crazy how things have shifted now. But yeah, then I ended up getting a job. I really wanted to be back on set. I missed that and started feeling a pull towards directing. So I found a job where it kind of combined all of them, where it's a performance marketing agency called Rickhouse Media, and I was directing probably once or twice a month for spots that would be launched on Meta or YouTube or Instagram. And then, yeah, we, for the most part, would be involved with the client from concepting to finish, but also looking at the data and how things perform so that we can iterate and continue. That was a really long spiel, but at least you have
No,
that.
that was great.
Okay.
There are a couple things that I picked up on that I want to note on is I find a lot of really good directors, especially commercial directors, come from art department. And I think it it's a department I've never worked on. So it may just be me being like blown away by what people can do with production design. And every time they bring something in, I'm like, wow, they just like built something. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think like as the commercial director, you don't really like the narrative is kind of baked in, and like the details of exactly like propping and design and what people and wardrobe and stuff like that, those are all still like well within the purview of the commercial director. And it's something that I never flexed in my own like short films and stuff. And so I kind of had to like learn to appreciate those departments more as I've been doing this.
That's funny. I feel like my short film that I just did this year that you also helped work on, but I feel like that was what, like maybe I put too much focus on the art.
No, it was great.
But it is I did want to do kind of like a little love letter to my, past career. But yeah, I spent a lot of time imagining the world put a lot of time and effort into imagining the world that goes with a specific character, probably even before like a lot of the camera angles and stuff. So like my brain is definitely backwards because of that. But
No, I think that's something that I also learned as I've started using 3D to do previs, is that most of the work, like a lot of the work on set, you always think of it in this like flat plane where nothing outside of your one camera angle really needs to like be built.
hmm
And like you can storyboard it, and if you storyboard it as images, there's like kind of that flat way of looking at it.
yeah.
This is getting a little, I don't know if the
No,
word
I
is
love that you do
myopic.
that, especially as an art person. That is so valuable because the amount of times as an art person where you dress a whole room and then they end up just being, yeah, let's just go in closer. And then they just don't show anything that you worked on. That would happen so much. So I love
Yeah.
that you guys do that storyboard layout. It's like,
Yeah, and I was also thinking like when you build something in 3D, you kind of have to like you do have to build more of the space and be more cognizant of like any prop that goes into your little 3D world. Like instead of just drawing it, you gotta like get a model of it. You gotta be like, there
yeah,
should be a lamp here.
yeah,
And I think that's just like better practice for me interacting with production design has been like making these previs where I have to decide there needs to be a lamp instead of not a lamp. And
yeah. And
yeah,
not doing it on the day too, which also helps out.
yeah.
Yeah, I want to learn how to do this 3D thing that you've been doing.
Said lamp so many times. I love lamp.
I love lamps.
Yeah, okay. That stood out to me as like having a strong background in production design, making you great for the commercial directing aspect. Love that you learned about location tagging in college when it was brand new. That's very fun.
Yeah.
What else? I was gonna say, stepping two steps back, you had talked about, like kind of embracing that the algorithm knows best, or embracing that not what you think looks great is gonna perform well. But like if
hmm
you could give one tip to someone who's trying to make their like social spot perform better, is there
hmm
something that you see people like making mistake over and over again?
Yes, I would say, I mean, there is one that's most people are catching on. I'll say two, because
Hmm.
one is like most people might know. And it is the importance of the first 3 seconds in the hook. I think a lot of brands want to put their brand logo in the beginning, or just they're more focused on the story that they're trying to tell, and they don't realize that social media isn't a place to tell like a linear narrative story. It's like you want to catch the person's focus in the first 3 seconds, and the way that you do that is doing a crazy visual with like a hook that really resonates with them, a copy hook that really resonates with them. So that would be my first tip, which I know a lot of people are starting to catch on to that, but it is super important. And then another thing that has helped me a lot, especially when I am concepting, is really looking at the persona that you're trying to target. With that, it comes a lot of research, but just looking at the brand and being like, what person are we trying to get to do what we want them to do? And then hone in on what that person likes, what their traits are, what their problems are, and like what would get them to do what you want them to do. And I basically like will do like a one sheeter about this like person and like make them up in my head and even give them a name, and with chat now give them a picture. And then structure my storyboards to reflect that persona, because I've found being more specific in your messaging and your visuals does help better performance versus just being like really broad. And I know the algorithm likes it also, because it will specifically feed towards those people.
Yeah, that is interesting. I feel like sometimes I'm making ads for one person, but
Yeah.
they're not the audience. They
Yeah.
work at the agency.
Yeah. Or it's like you feel like you're making it for yourself, right? As a creative, you're like, "Oh, this is so fun. This looks great." But if your audience is like a 65-year-old woman, is she really going to think this is like cool or sick like you do? No. She wants it to be like big fonts and
It's like
slow and loud.
sick, brother.
I
That
just think
TikTok was
'cause I always want to make
dope.
stuff for Gen Z, because it's like aesthetically looks awesome. But a lot of the brands that I work on, it's like the 65-year-old women are the ones buying it. And so I don't know.
Mm.
There is a sweet spot though. Sometimes they will like if you mention the word TikTok, like TikTok made me buy this. Older women love that because they must think it's cool too or something.
They just like that TikTok is a silly name.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they know that, younger kids are cool. Like there's aspirational aspects I think to it too, but yeah, I think um it's just interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think both of those tips are really interesting. I've definitely made a lot of linear narratives in vertical format, and then seen, yeah, like a 6 second that was like a single shot but was more interesting, like perform well.
Mhm.
So my brother-in-law, who's Gen Z, he's only a couple years younger than me, but he was telling me that the difference between millennials and Gen Z content is that millennials love story. They're all about story. And
Mhm.
that Gen Z's vibes.
Vibes. Yeah, I
It's
love
like he was giving an example of like wedding photography, and it's like, oh, the millennial photographer would be like, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. This is the story of the day, and Gen Z would come in and shoot like, just what was the feeling of it? And I think that's very TikTok.
Yeah, yeah. That's so true. I feel like boomers are not afraid of an infomercial too. They'll just watch the most cheesy, like, straightforward ad and just buy it.
They say, give me the details of the product. I might buy it.
Yes. And we even, I mean, where I'm working now, we do pre-sales, which means instead of sending the customer to straight to the website, we send them to another article that like breaks down more reasons why you should buy. And yeah, old people love it. I'm like, I don't think Gen Zs would have the time to read that. They would just
Yeah.
more
You got
real.
to bamboozle them out of their money, Gen
Yeah.
Z. They don't have enough to be buying things all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I was on a call yesterday and was talking to the creatives, like the writer and the art director, and then the ECD kind of chimed on and was explaining, like, in a very broad sense, the funnel, like the different deliverables that we were trying to achieve for the different tiers of the funnel. And
Yeah.
I think you would have a lot more insight into explaining, like,
The f-
what kind of creative would you put in each version of the funnel? The funnel
yeah.
being like the top of the funnel is people who've never heard of you, don't even know what your product is. Bottom of the funnel is someone with their credit card in their hand
Yeah.
and they're about to press buy.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. I feel like the top of the funnel is all about awareness. So like you can't really get people to convert or buy if they don't know that you exist. So the goal isn't if you're trying to do top of funnel, the goal isn't to sell right away. It's just to build familiarity and trust. And then so that's why like you'll see a lot of the bigger brands put a lot of money and time and effort into like a big Super Bowl commercial because they know that it's just putting their brand name out there and like planting the seed in an entertaining way. But yeah, the middle and the bottom is more they already know. And like you said, like credit card in hand. I would say middle is more, hey, you might already know this brand, but this is my personal, like I usually do like more personal stories in middle of funnel, just so almost like a review. There's like more reason, like a customer review, like more reason or more validation that the brand is like legit or the product that you're selling actually works. That's where I think middle is. And then, yeah, bottom of funnel, I would say is like a static image with a promo on it. It's like, here, just like click and buy. You already know what this product is, and here's a discount on it. So, yeah, I found though a lot of times we'll make ads that we think are top of funnel or middle, and then it like ends up being something else. But for the most part, I think it is a good general reference point to look at. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not like I've it depends on client, but like some clients really care about it, and other clients we don't even talk about it. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. There's no like when I When I think of the top of the top of the biggest funnel, I think of the Got Milk campaign. Because
Yeah.
it wasn't even for Borden or any milk company. It was just like, hey, remember milk?
Yeah.
And then, they spent millions and millions of dollars on these celebrity endorsements. It was like everywhere. It was like, don't forget milk, you could drink it.
That's so funny. It is it is like the craziest campaign ever.
Yeah. There's a good YouTube video on subsidies for the dairy industry and how they spend all this money on it. But, it's good. It's got protein. I don't drink milk anymore. I drink
Same.
oat milk.
Oat, you're
Yeah.
odor?
This is sweeter.
Odor.
Yeah. I'm an odor.
Sorry, I
No
lost.
udders for me, only odors.
I only do almond because I heard oat has sugar. A lot of natural sugar.
That's why I like it. It's sweet.
Yeah, but it's sweet. But then almond milk is bad because it uses so much water. They're all can't win.
I'll ask ChatGPT about that water usage.
Yeah, I think honestly coconut is probably the best to use, or soy, but soy isn't good for you.
What? Soy's fine.
I think for women it's not good to drink soy all the time because it produces more estrogen.
Soy. I'm going to become a soy boy after this. To prove you wrong. I'm going to get super shredded on my soy milk.
Super shredded on your soy.
Okay, let's talk about the next thing. So funnel, that's great. It is interesting to know that not every... So when you're in the ad agency, you're like pitching to the marketing team. Often the CMO of the company will be the one who decides what agency to hire out for creative, and then
Yeah. Yeah, I think in a similar light that you guys pitch to clients where you make a pitch deck, we would do that as well. And then when Rick, I don't know if we should put this on there. When we first started, it was when the algorithm kind of first came out, and I don't know, there was like this, I feel like it was like all hype performance marketing. And so people were really interested in it. And the way we structured our contracts were like, if our videos perform well, then we get paid. And it was doing really great for a long time. But then I think viewers are starting to catch on to the algorithm. And, everyone knows what a UGC is now, or like a TikTok influencer. But like at the beginning stages, there was a time where it was like, oh, this looks like a real person that's just selling me something. But now people are catching on. So I do feel like there's like this wave where we're like kind of going back to more traditional ads, and like people are appreciating a little bit more story because they're kind of getting flooded by all the influencers. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going on a side tangent, but
no, I think that's really interesting that, yeah, in the early days of Reels, even pre-TikTok, it was, yeah, you would be watching something and thinking it was like just a person who's posted, but it becomes very branded, and then you're like, oh no, I'm watching an ad. And now, yeah, I do think that I have a pretty good eye for, in the first few seconds, being like, this person is trying to sell me something.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I get so mad when someone gets me, because I'm like obviously on the side of making them, and there's a few, and I'll always share them with my team because I'm like, this one actually got me. So
yeah, yeah, you're like just watching them like pet some otters, and then suddenly they pull out a product and
no,
like,
seriously. Wait, have you seen there's a trend going around right now where it's like, this one's so funny. I got one the other day. It was like, do you know if you jump out of a plane and you try to land in water, you're actually going to die? But if you try to land, and it's showing someone like jumping out of a plane. So of course I'm watching. I'm like, what? I thought you would always want to jump in water. And it's like, but you should jump right into our restaurant and enjoy our Mediterranean food. And it just like goes into a normal commercial. And it was pretty hilarious. I'm like, dang, that's good. Like, I like it when I get it, like when they get me, because I'm like, dang, got me. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I've seen some of those that are, I wish that it was someone local. Every time I've seen something like that, it's been like somewhere in Maryland. And I'm like, damn, I would go to that restaurant if it was like an Austin
random?
place. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So what do you think that's like the next kind of trend is like, what do you think now that we have this fatigue of seeing like an influencer in their living room, just like straight to camera, they move the iPhone and they're like, hey guys, I gotta tell you about this thing that I own and wasn't paid to sell you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like what is the next version?
The next version. I do feel like people are starting to appreciate more authentic, real videos. And I do feel like there is this push towards creators because I think influencers or creators are starting to get really good at what they do. And so I think brands are starting to trust them and let them take the lead and make something on their own from their own brain. That way it comes off more authentic. It's more unique versus the agency like giving them a lot, like a whole page of lines and scripts. So yeah, I do think there's a push for that. And I think because of TikTok, I feel like TikTok kind of is leading the way as far as trends go. And so I do think it's really important to be on there if you're trying to do or sell anything. But yeah, I feel like TikTok is kind of leading the way. And with it being a platform where people are just posting authentic, creative, new things, I do feel like people enjoy that and like that. So as a creative, I'm kind of hoping that the trends kind of lead back to being more creative and more like a narrative story or just like play into silliness or like more comedy. But yeah, I'm hopeful that it is going in that direction, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I remember TikTok, like the first kind of like the first thing TikTok was really known for is like dance videos.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really that way anymore.
No, not at all. And I think when I post on TikTok, if I've noticed when I put a lot of effort into something and I think it out, it doesn't do well. But if I do something that's more just in the moment and I'm just being myself and I'm not really thinking about it too much, those always do the best. And I'm like, that's so interesting.
That's so interesting.
Do less. But I do think that it should be I mean, just like what I said with the creators, I went to like a Meta conference thing a few months ago and they had a bunch of creators there and every single one of them said like give us less. Like we don't like we feel stripped away from who we are when we're just given a script of lines and we're just reading it to camera. We're not contributing ourselves and our brand and we have followers for a reason. So like let us do like what we want to do and show your brand the way that we want and it will perform better and it will do better across the board. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Try to they already know their audience.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And their audience knows them. So if they're posting about a product that in a weird way that isn't them, it's just not going to reflect good on them.
Yeah, definitely. How much do you think you can kind of tell from the algorithm or from how performance of something works, whether or not, you can, whenever you post, you'll get data and you'll see if it did well or not. Is there like a real hindrance to posting more often and getting like non-performant stuff? Like, well, how many times can you post something that's like under average before it's kind of you've ruined your trajectory? So my question, let me say my question one more time.
Okay.
The question I'm asking is like, okay, if I have a couple posts that are doing really well and it's like they're kind of building on each other, but then I'm like, okay, I just need to post more often and I'm a little bit less precious about the quality or I try to be like try new things, like am I going to ruin that trajectory by posting like 3 in a row that are like losers?
Yeah. I think that's a good question. I think it depends on what you're trying to accomplish and like where the brand is at. If you are starting out fresh and you're just starting to launch stuff, I think it's good to put a lot out there. That way you're casting a really big net. I would do a lot of different things. So then that way you can collect learnings from what is doing well. But if you're in a place where you already have followers and you're starting to see good performance, I wouldn't stress about doing too much, but I would hone in on like trying to figure out uh why what's working is working and build off of that. So yeah, if you have like 3 or 4 videos that are doing well, I would just look at them and be like, how can I scale this? Scaling just means you can do multiple different way. You can do it different types of ways, but you can try it, take literally the same video, put a new opener on it, or if it's a certain concept, you can do the similar concept, but maybe with like a different, I'm trying to think of an example, like of what you guys did on set. Like, I know you guys did a raining concept and like, let's say this did really well. Be like, okay, so people like tips on set. So you could say when it's a really hot day, what are like 3 tips? So that's like, it's basically the same theme, same concept, but you're scaling it to seem like it's something new.
Yeah, that's interesting. You gotta. I think that's where your expertise comes in, because when you want to A/B test something, like, yeah, you could change any variable, and it kind of you get data on how it performs and like who's watching it, but you don't actually have like real insight onto the big why of like why do women who are 65 that live in Maryland think this is hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly, that's been one of my favorite parts of this job, especially meeting up with one of the bigger, like a bigger brand and coming in because they really know their audience. But if I can come in and shine light on something that they haven't seen before or unlock a new audience, that's like super exciting. So I do really love looking at the data from in that perspective.
Excluding the funnel, like where you have, like they don't know your brand to they need a promo code to buy.
Mm-hmm.
How would you approach creative differently for a company that's, like a Fortune 500 versus like if you're doing creative for a local store that has like 3 restaurants or something like that?
Yeah, I would say usually bigger brands already know their audience and they have brand guidelines, they know their mood and their tone. So, first and foremost, with those brands, I definitely prioritize that. Basically, prioritize the client's vision over your own. I feel like in those situations, but if I were to link up with more a mom and pop situation and they're trying to grow their brand, I feel like they're in a beginning stage of their brand guidelines and everything. So they might be more open to new ideas and testing. And so, yeah, I would probably be more expressive with my ideas in that situation and kind of do what I was telling you, where you're like cast a really big net of different types of concepts and then see what does well. Also, would love, I mean, talking about personas again, I would spend time looking up research on creating those personas. I would probably do that for a big brand and a mom and pop. I usually do that first thing before working with any brand because that really guides the type of concepts that I will be doing. So that's usually like the first thing that I do. And what's really exciting about doing that, sometimes when I do that with the bigger brands, they're like, oh, we didn't even know that was a persona, or I didn't even know that was a value prop that our customers care about. So it's crazy. The research part of this job is really important. And with AI now, it's gotten so much easier and faster. I remember we A/B test doing it manually, all the research, and then also using chat, and it pulled up the same data, except doing it manually took like 3 days.
Yeah.
Chat did it in like 20 minutes. So that's been really helpful. But yeah, I look at customer reviews, comments, like even going as far as, Trustpilot reviews or like in Google reviews. I'm trying to think where else I look. And then, yeah, asking chat, what are 3 problems of, let me think of an example. Chat, like, what's a problem that 65 women 65 and up deal with when putting on mascara? And then it will list out the problems and you're like, oh, okay. And then you can kind of build off of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely found ChatGPT or any of the LLMs, which I kind of use them interchangeably, but I found them to be really great for like giving you an army of like medium to good ideas.
Hmm.
Or like most of the ideas are pretty bad, but like just reading a list of things that are thematically useful, like you can just pick one and go off that.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
so useful.
I feel like it's definitely not, it does not finalize any concepts by any means, but it's a really good like stepping stone or like starting off point to like
Yeah.
get your brain moving.
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is our kind of unique workflow. I don't know how unique it is. We've had other production companies, request to work with you because it is becoming more in demand. Being able to shoot your broadcast spot with all your lighting, your big team, and then have someone come in and like make like high performant social content
Hmm.
because now everyone's realizing you can't just I mean, you can, but you ought not to shoot your wide and your vertical the same way. They can't be the same joke because they just don't play on the same platforms.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the more polished look of the nicer camera and the nicer light doesn't necessarily always do great too, especially if you're trying to drive performance. But yeah, I are you asking like what's a good workflow? I think you started to say that.
Oh yeah, I said if you just want to talk a little bit about the workflow that we've done, any difficulties that you've had, or like tips you have for productions that are trying to add this in with
Yeah.
their normal workflow.
Um, I think what has been, I've done it a few different ways. More recently, did it where I was shooting the same. There's been situations where I'm shooting the same concept, same setting, same talent, but they're just slightly altered to be more catered to Meta or Instagram. But basically, y'all will shoot your scene in, let's say, a living room, and then once you're wrapped and you're moving on to the next, we would come in and film on an iPhone with the same talent and the same lights. And I really do like that flow, especially having access to nice lighting, but shooting it on the iPhone, I think is a really good balance of feeling elevated, but also feeling native. And then there's also been a situation where I've done completely different concepts within the concepts that you guys are shooting, which I have found also works great, but that just takes like a little bit more prep time as far as like fleshing out the concepts and making sure that there's enough props and talent knows we're going to be pulling them away from the main shoot. So yeah, I think there's a few ways to do it, but I think being scrappy and flexible and just excited to be there has gone a long way. And yeah, I think more and more people are starting to realize that social is super important. I think there is kind of this feeling that we're just like, oh, it's just like on an iPhone, but it's like this video like gets millions of views, so it's either like converting or depends on what you're trying to do, but there is a lot of value behind them. So yeah, just being able to consolidate and add it on to a shoot that you're already spending a lot of money on, I think is a really great way to do it. Because yeah, if you're supposed to do like another social shoot, will be a lot of money. So I think this is like a good alternative.
Yeah, definitely. I think the camera line item on a production is not a huge problem.
Yeah.
And the choice to shoot on an iPhone is like a deliberate like performance choice and not really like a budget choice when
Hmm.
it comes to making something that's gonna be good.
Yeah, no, exactly. And we've done both, like we talked about. And yeah, I think people just recognize it and are familiar with the iPhone and the way it looks, like just the subtle like hand wobbles that you see. Like you don't really subconsciously notice it, but you can tell if a camera's like locked off and light
Yeah.
really well versus someone just like handheld. So yeah, it is really interesting.
Yeah, I've a lot of the times been asked to shoot something that looks more socially native
Hmm.
and tried to get an iPhone look with a different camera and it's like not really
That's
it's so
hard.
much more work to try to fool people into thinking it. The benefit of a real camera, though, which I do suggest most of the time, like if it's going on different platforms and not just like only going to be on Instagram Reels or something, then I do usually suggest we shoot on a real camera, because
Yeah.
then you can have a tear deck and you can have people in
Mhm.
Village like watch it, and you can. I've done one shoot that was like fully on an iPhone, and the Village was just like, we're only getting 1 frame a second, you know.
Mhm.
They're like, I can't really see what you're doing, and I'm like, yeah, there were like 14 people there in Village, and I'm shooting an iPhone. It's like, this is not gonna work out.
That's that is tough. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this has been great. I am so excited that we're gonna have you on our website very soon.
I know, me too. I'm so
I'll just say I'm so excited to have Megan added to the Camlock roster as a director. I think that her insight into social media and performance is incredibly unique and useful, and a great arsenal for adding onto our productions, doing her own productions that are socially focused. And also, you should check out her short film, which is not for social. It's widescreen.
Yeah. My first non-social thing is very exciting.
It's very good. And the art direction is extremely strong in it.
Yeah, shout out to Izzy. She did a really great job. But yeah, it's almost done. I think we should have it ready by October, submitting to South by, so fingers crossed.
That'll be exciting. All right. Thanks, Megan.
Bye.
Bye.
Yay.
Okay. Yay. We did it.